Hi, I'm Josh George, and today I'll be talking about college football in the SEC. Now, I'm going to talk about them in their respective divisions. First, I'm going to talk about the Kentucky Wildcats and their coach Stoops. This will be his second year at Kentucky. He's doing a great job slowly turning that program around. In fact, if Kentucky's going to have a chance to talk about national championships, I think he's going to be the guy that gets them to that point. But with that being said, I only have Kentucky getting 4 wins this season. Then I want to talk about the Vanderbilt Commodores. They've been doing really well with some of their quarterbacks, but they haven't quite kept up in the SEC. And because of that, I think that will continue, and I think they'll only get 5 wins this season. Then I want to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers. They've got a lot of good young talent. In fact, they do have a tough non-conference. They do have to play the Oklahoma Sooners. I think they'll lose that game. But with that being said, I think they get to 6 wins. Then I want to talk about the Missouri Tigers. I think they'll get to 7 wins this season. I do know that they wound up in the conference championship last season, but they did lose their quarterback and their defensive all-star. So I don't think they have as much talent as they had last season. So only 7-5 for them. Then the Florida Gators, I know that they had a lot of injuries last season, and I know they've got a lot of talent. So, but because of their tough schedule and some of the other tough teams in the conference, I only think that the Florida Gators will get to 7 wins. Then I want to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. I think they've got a lot of talent. In fact, they do start out with Clemson this season. I think they'll win against Clemson after losing last season. I think that they have a good shot to win the conference and definitely win the division. But they have struggled against South Carolina recently, and the South Carolina Gamecocks have Coach Steve Spurrier, who's nicknamed as Crybaby because he throws clipboards and other things when he loses, but that doesn't help you get wins. I do, however, think he will inspire his players and wind up 10-2 and in the conference championship this season. Now to the other division, I want to talk about the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They play in the toughest division in sports right now, and they don't have a huge tough team right now. I know that they're going to do a lot of work in the offseason, but I only think that they can get to 4 wins. And then the Arkansas Razorbacks, they have a ton of running back talent down there. They've always recruited great running backs, but I don't think that they have what it takes to withstand the beating that they're going to take in a lot of their games. And I think they'll have a hard-fought 5-win season. Then I want to talk about the Ole Miss Rebels. I think that they'll get to 10-2 this season, including an upset to Alabama. They have the best defense in college football right now, and one of the better recruiting classes of defensive players in college football. Then I want to talk about Texas A&M. I know that they've lost Johnny Manziel, and I know that they don't have that great of a defense, and I also know that they play in the SEC. So if 1 + 1 = 2, they're not going to be very good this year in the SEC. They do have enough talent, though, I think, to get to 9 wins this season. Then I want to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide. I know that they're one of the better teams in college football. I know they've got Nick Saban, the best coach in college football, and he's got the best recruiting class in college football, and maybe even the best talent in college football. But the problem is Alabama has to go to Baton Rouge this year. They've always struggled against the LSU Tigers when they've gone to Baton Rouge. And I think because of that, that will be one of their losses. I also think Ole Miss will blindside them this season and get to that's how Ole Miss gets to 10-2, and that's how Alabama winds up at 10-2. Then your 2 1-loss teams from the division and the conference are Auburn and LSU. I think LSU winds up with their 1 loss being to Auburn and Gus Malzahn trying to get revenge on LSU. After all, that was his only conference loss last season. And I think I think Auburn will lose in Tuscaloosa this year. After Alabama has to watch that kick return for a touchdown, I think that it will give them plenty of motivation to beat Auburn, and I think that's Auburn's one loss until the conference championship when they face off with South Carolina. I think South Carolina will wind up beating Auburn in the conference championship. So the only one loss team left in the SEC is the LSU Tigers, and I think LSU gets a playoff bid from the SEC because of that. And I think LSU has the best chance to win the national championship from the SEC.